It's nice to see you. I feel like, yeah, this is so much has happened between the last time that we met in January. And don't know, how many of you are in the Los Angeles area, but for those of you who are, I am mindful of you, my home state, and all of the trauma that's going on there now, and just the like obliteration of neighborhoods. It's just crazy. So if you're there, I'm with you and thinking of my old stomping grounds. And like I was lived on the West Side, and when I left for Nashville, I was in the Pasadena area. So like it's unfathomable. I can't even speak to it. It's like can't even, uh, I couldn't even venture, to comprehend what's happening. But if you're from there and you're contending with it, my heart is with you. And I don't even, I mean, I think sometimes like, why would anybody who's there right now be on a call, but if you are, I'm super mindful. Um, so happy New Year. Um, uh, yeah, 2025, here we go. It's the middle of the month already. Like that's kind of astounding to me. Um, but, you know, the tragedy notwithstanding, and there's always tragedy happening somewhere, um, I'm hopeful for all of us that this is a good year, um, and that we've got some good goals and things that we're setting our minds to this year. That's my hope. I do, and I'm like last year was crazy and not the best year of my career. I can tell you that much. I think it was a rough year for a lot of people, and that includes me. And I do a lot of video game work, and that's just kind of because of the strike, it's just been non-existent. So, um, anyway, I have my sights on other things this year and pivoting, like we all kind of have to learn to do through the course of our careers. So pivot, perhaps that should be the word of the year. Pivot. I don't know. My word this year is clarity. So that's what I'm after. But pivot, that's a good one. um, anyway, I would love to hear from you about what is going on and what questions you have. And I had one person write in a question, which I will happily address. It's a good one. But if anything is going on at the moment for you, please make yourself known and let me know what it is. Anything, anything. Joetta.
I think I'm having a little bit of an issue right now with um last year not being my best year as
Hmm.
well.
Hmm.
And I think as I'm looking now that it's the end of the year and I've got all of my stuff logged, I log all of my auditions and all of my bookings. And as I'm looking at the ratio from 2023 and looking at this year, 2024, the bookings were like almost half.
Mm.
And
half of what
half
they
of what they
were
were in
before.
2023.
Hmm.
And and also this year I was doing more auditioning. So the auditioning was probably not twice as much, but a little bit under that.
Okay.
Yeah. And so
So your ratio went down.
my ratio went down.
Yeah.
And right now, because we're on our booths, we're auditioning based on what we know to be the best we could possibly do for that moment. And I feel like maybe I'm in some sort of a rut or something. And I'm also feeling a little defeated because, like, it's the beginning of a new year and I'm fucking tired. Like, I'm tired.
Already, right?
I'm
Already.
tired already. And I'm
Yeah.
in Minnesota, you guys, so I don't have sunshine. And it's
Yeah.
snowy outside, it's gross. And I'm just like trying to muster up the courage to get inside of the booth, let alone do a good job. So right now I'm wondering what you and the cohort might suggest for like how do you work on objectively looking at your reads? How do you work on refreshing yourself throughout the year so that your stuff isn't getting stale? Your auditions aren't
Yeah.
getting robotic and stale, especially considering the tone that is like everywhere we go, it's always approachable, non-announcery. And I've made my bread and butter on announcery,
Mhm.
like Midwestern. Here at United Healthcare, we blah, 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 blah. So trying to like get out of that has been difficult. So any suggestions I'd be grateful for.
Yeah. Um, well, the first thing I can say is that I hope that you will take some comfort in knowing that you are not alone. This is not, you know, a person's read, a person's talent doesn't change in a year, right? What you do and the strengths that you have and the reasons that you have booked and the reasons that you booked in 2024, even though you booked less, right? It still exists. You still exist. Your talent still exists. A viable read um, is a viable read. And trends change. Yes, they do. But trends are usually a very subtle shift, right? They're very subtle. It's like we don't just go from a very natural sort of read to an over the top commercial announcer kind of read in from December to January. Do you know what I mean? And so this is just to edify you, right? And even even in the short little thing that you said, yeah, at United Healthcare, we blah 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 blah, right? Um, that is a natural read. And I know that that the spec probably says we want this to sound like your friend, um, right? Instead of announcer, female, 35 to 50, it may say that, but it will say we don't want it to sound like an announcer. So I want to say that I think that just the essence of your read is already a natural one, and that it's just really you just need it to a certain extent to take a breath and trust it. Like really. Um, but, to mitigate the worry and the apprehension that you might have and that you might feel is growing in you, my suggestion is always to get yourself into some kind of a workout group where you're getting feedback and where you're sort of forced into performative land, you know and I mean that in the best sense, where you're on. It's like, okay, now I have to do the job because other people are listening to me. So that's what I mean by performative, right? um it's very different when you're reading in the booth by yourself versus in front of a casting director. It's like you always feel a little bit of that pressure of like, okay, I really got to give it my best right here because other people are listening. So I think that is always a helpful thing. I don't think you have to spend a lot of money to do it. I think it's a little bit like a check-in, really. It's just a check-in, like, and and find out how you're doing and listen to what other people are doing. And right? I think it's that muscle of kind of setting yourself into the circumstance and going, how do I compare? And again, I don't, you know what I mean by compare. Like I did this when I was first, before I stepped into the realm of animation. I was like, I can't go out and like perform in front of casting directors that I don't know what I'm doing. But I would go and I would audit. I would audit just to go, what are other people doing? What do auditions in this space sound like? And if I were to have read something, would I have kind of fit in here? Would I have been better? Do I have more work to do? just to give yourself perspective, right? Um, I'm trying to think of what it's like I can't remember my favorite phrase right now. Um, to be an objective observer of your work, right? Uh, uh, to sort of stand outside the work and look at it and go, how is that? Not to judge myself, not to be like, oh, you suck, or you know, it's just to listen. Like, is it? What if you were the casting director? What would you think of your read? You know? Um, so uh, so I think what you're experiencing is the reality of the business also. There are far more people doing this job um, um, from everywhere, right? Um, I can only guess. I have no window into this, and I am not an expert. But I think people feel uneasy a lot of times in an election year, and like what's going to happen? Should we be spending? When I say people, I mean businesses and advertisers, and it's like small businesses in particular, ones who we might be working more for, right? Um, that they're like, are we going to be spending on advertising like we did the year before, or we're going to wait and see what happens, in the future and make our estimations about what we're going to do, right? And so there are all kinds of things that play into whether we're booking or not, or how many people are in the are flooding, the audition, you know. And I've said it a million times, but it bears repeating, it, back in sort of my heyday of work, I was booking 1 in 10 things, right? Can you like, wow, that seems so miraculous, right? But that was common. It was common, but it was before the internet, you know, um, and and we were reading against each other in one city, right? And sometimes you would have the benefit, of getting something. I guess it's a benefit. Yes, if you get it from an advertiser from across the country, and you get that opportunity, but you're reading against more people. But it was never more than 50 people, and now 50 would be like, wow, if only, we were all only reading against 50 people, it'd be great. So all of those things matter. And sometimes also we just have a bad year. And there's no rhyme or reason to it. And it does not portend the future. It just doesn't, you know? Um, it just doesn't. And so a big part of the answer is, keep your head down, shoulder to the wheel, and keep working. Keep doing what you know. You know, I have to check in now and again with my own agents and say, how am I doing? Am I competitive? Does my read need improving? Please tell me. I want the information. And a lot of times they just say, yep, you're doing great. Just keep going. And you just have to keep going, and the audition has to matter to you. And I think here's another big piece of wintertime, you know, no sunshine out there. All the things. I am so dragged. It's we had one little snowstorm here in Middle Tennessee, which dropped 6 inches of snow and everything closed. I mean, 6 inches. It's like nothing. It's nothing. Oh, imagine all the Chicagoans just laughing at us, like, but it was kind of hilarious. But it has an effect on everything. It has an effect on whether you go to the gym. I walk outside, I sprint. I can't do that during the winter. And so I just feel like, ugh, right? So I totally get the doldrums of the season. It's real, And so I know I have had to I've had to change my expectation of the season, and I have to cultivate things in this season that make me happy. Because if I have a happy life and a happy disposition, I'm going to be far more apt to want to go in the booth when the copy shows up in my inbox because the rest of my life is full and happy and has I'm having good experiences, right? I mean, if everything's kind of like, oh, you know, you just don't want to go in the booth. I don't. I don't want to do anything but get back in bed, with a third cup of coffee, So I can't really emphasize enough the importance of building your life. Like, don't forget your life. And your life is not voiceover. You do voiceover because you love it, hopefully, right? And because you make your at least a partial living from it, or you hope to make a partial living from it, but it isn't your life. And so we can't forget to cultivate our lives. Um, so in summary, like check in with other people, however you do that, right? Um, get yourself into a workshop of some kind where you're getting where you get to read and you're getting feedback and you get to listen, right? I think giving ourselves opportunities to continue to listen to what's out there and what's being affirmed, right, in a particular read is really important. Um, and again, if you have agents, just check in. Doesn't have to be any big thing. You don't have to lay your troubles at their feet. Just like, how am I doing? I just want to make sure my reads are competitive and that you're happy with them. That's it, right? No sort of, oh my God, I haven't worked and this is happening and I'm afraid. And like we don't need to go there, right? We don't need to generate that. It's just check in, gather the information objectively, right? And I think it's great that you have all your numbers, right? It is great and it's informative. That's what it does. It provides you with information, but um, it's not a window into what is coming. It's a look back at what has happened, right? And then you get to assess, right, how you're going to use that information to improve what's in front of you. I think that's just the biggest thing. Like we get really kind of locked in our fear. I mean, um I shared this once, but I'm going to share it again because it was really pivotal for me. Like it was really helpful. Um yeah. So this thing of like I'm telling you, last year was, I was on a veil many times and I didn't book anything until December. Like and the thing I booked in December was like a little thing, but I was like, oh, oh, I booked something, but I had like, you know, I think I was on a veil 8 times and it was shocking to me like, really? None of it? Like it was just crazy. Um so I started saying to myself, um where's my fantastic note? Okay. I started saying to myself, oh, I don't book great voiceover jobs anymore. I don't book that anymore. I don't book high paying, profitable voiceover work anymore. It's like, wow, that's quite a mindset, you know. And then I watched this thing where this guy was like, it's not magic. You just have to kind of shift the tape in your head, right? So what if you were to say the opposite of that? Tell yourself the opposite. I regularly book high paying voiceover jobs. So so when the thought occur when you have a thought that is a negative one that's kind of like you ask yourself the question, what's the 180 of that, right? And it's not magic. Here's the thing I really like about this technique, right? Is that it's not magic. It's not, I could stand here and say I'm going to make $300 million this year. And just because I verbalize it does not mean that that's going to happen, you know? Um, so the linchpin of this is after you make the 180 statement, right? From I don't book high paying voiceover jobs to I regularly book high paying voiceover jobs. Then you ask yourself the question, well, what evidence do I have that that's true? What evidence do I have? And for me, I looked and I was like, well, holy crap, I have a 40-year career to look back on as evidence that I do. That's like real and tangible, and it's proof. And if somebody were to challenge me and go, yeah, I don't believe that you book high paying, so I'd go, here's my resume. And so I have to do the same thing for myself. I have to sort of hand my resume back to myself and go, oh, right. You know, I did that stuff. So I do. It's actually true that I do book those things. And so I now have reason to change the tape in my head that's logical, right? So, um, so there you go. I know that was a very long-winded thing, but I hope that's helpful and practical, right? Get yourself in front of some other people and maybe in front of a casting director if you can. And again, you don't have to take a 6-week course. If there's a 1-day workshop or a workout group that you can be a part of for a little bit, right? Just do that just to check in, right? And shift, take care of your life, do things that make you happy. I light candles all the time. I've been getting up early in the morning um, to write, and I get some red light therapy. I have a big red light thing, right? So I can't go out in the sun because it's overcast and it's cold, but I sit in front of that thing for 15 minutes and it's like, okay, get a little light in my eyes and get my little mitochondria working. And so you do what makes you happy and what makes you feel good in your life. And then you'll want to come into your booth and you'll just automatically have a different disposition. So, and again, the evidence that you've provided for 2024 is evidence for 2024. It's not proof of what's going to happen in 2025. So there you
I
go.
am so grateful for everything you just said. That was such a helpful mindset shift for me, and also a good reality check
Good.
for what is and for what is, and then also what has been the story that I've been telling myself in my
Yeah.
mind, but
Yeah.
what is the truth? So
Yeah.
thank you.
Yeah. You're welcome. You're welcome. Yeah. You're welcome. Marie, how are you?
I'm fine, thanks, Kay. How are
Good.
you?
I'm well. Thank you. Thank you.
Good. Joetta, if I may, I have you ever heard of the Voicecaster in LA? Thevoicecaster.com.
No,
Tell me,
thank
Kay, if
you.
I'm like stepping on toes here or something, but they
Say it
hold
again.
thevoicecaster.com. And if you scroll down on their website, they've got a virtual VO workout group weekly. They send you 2 scripts, and you could, whatever the scripts tell you, whether it's commercial, animation, whatever, they cost $10 for one, $15 for two. You send in your auditions, they give you feedback
Great.
within the week. And these are casting directors who are doing this. It's not, these are legit casting directors.
Yeah, I
And
get
they're,
copy from them all the time.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And the thing about that is that you get to weekly read for them. And then when a script comes in and like, oh my God, Joetta would be perfect for this. You know what I'm saying? So you're like 2 birds with 1 stone.
Yeah.
But they're lovely people. The Voicecaster has been around for like, I think they just celebrated 50 years, something like that. So not that Kelly is even that old. She's the owner and they're terrific. They're really
Yeah.
terrific. And they do have classes. They do have, weekly classes or whatever, they have and concentrating in certain areas. But this I have found has boosted my confidence in how I approach a script rather than like, oh my God, I don't have a freaking clue, what this is supposed to be. And it just like even if I say that, I don't have a freaking clue, and they love the ad lib, they love you like telling a little bit before you go into your script. They love that. They love that button at the back or whatever. Give it a shot. Give it a shot. It gives you feedback from a casting director.
Yeah, that's really, really good advice.
I
Very
can't
good.
wait. Thank you
And
so much.
you're
And
welcome. Yeah, they send them out on Fridays, and you've got until Tuesday to send back your stuff.
Oh
And
my
then they give you
gosh.
feedback
Yeah.
like right away after that, like Wednesday, Thursday, whatever. And I'm always telling them, please don't blow smoke up my skirt. I need honest. I don't need pretty. Pretty doesn't work for me.
yeah,
They're really good.
that's fantastic.
So
Thank you.
yeah.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
listening to Kay and everything she said, of course, is like golden, golden stuff.
That's a really that's exactly what I'm talking about. Like where you can get yourself in, where you can get some feedback on what you're reading. A casting director is a boon, and where it's not that expensive, and you can commit to only what you can afford. You don't have to do it every week, right? So, yeah, it's really smart, really good idea. So, right on, great. Maria, was that just a comment you had? You didn't have a question?
Yeah, that was all
Okay, yeah, that's great.
because I know for me the same thing. It's like you submit these auditions and nothing, and you're like, was it good? Was it competitive? Was it crazy? Was
Yeah,
it crap? Was it listened to? I have no idea. I have
yeah.
no idea. And I'm not, let's be honest, I'm not in the age demographic of what's out there. I'm not in the 18 to 40-year-old. I'm not. And I'm glad I'm
Neither am
not,
I.
I'm where I am, and
Yeah,
that's it, and
yeah,
I could either say, well, I'll just sound like a little girl, but no, you know, that's not what they're looking for. They're looking for authentic. So
yeah,
this is me, you know,
yeah, yeah. Great advice. Great, great, great. Thank you so much, Marie. Really appreciate it.
my pleasure.
Jenna, I saw your hand go up.
Hello.
How are
It's my
ya?
first. Great. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you.
It's my first time in one of these Q&As. Thank you
Welcome.
for doing. Thank you.
Yeah.
So I'm relatively new to voiceover. I just started in like September,
Okay.
and so most of the auditions I'm doing now are voices.com.
Okay.
And I was wondering if you have any recommendations or strategies when sometimes the client will post like a range of their budget. And so they'll post a job and their budget, instead of being like $1,200, they'll say $1,000 to $1,250. And you put in a proposal. And that's something that I have been struggling with how to approach because, obviously I don't want to cheat myself out of any money. But I also am aware that, I don't have a ton of reviews or booked gigs that, if they like my read, like, oh, what else has she done? And there's not much, that's kind of taking a risk. And so is it inappropriate for me to be asking for the top amount? Or is it just if they like your voice, they're gonna like pick you?
Yeah.
I guess I'm just not sure. I'm never sure
Sure.
how to approach it. Like,
Yeah.
do I give them just like $25 off so they can say they came in under budget? I really overthink this,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
then now I'm like 25th in line for getting the audition.
I think it's a question a lot of people have. I have had it many times when I have been given a range, it's like, oh, geez, don't make me put a number on my talent, like don't make me do that. That's why I have an agent because I just want them to do that and I can say yes or no, Um and I think um here's the thing. I'm going to tell you another story. So my very, 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 very first my very first voiceover job in the professional world, um, I was, I don't know, 23, 24. And uh and I booked it was a dialogue spot, and the other person that booked it had been in the business for a long time. And it had lots of experience, and I didn't have any experience, and I didn't have a resume at all. Um, and we were paid the same. We were paid the union rate. He didn't make more than I did. Um, and that is something that we have to kind of hold uh, as a priority. There are no beginner rates. There are no beginner rates. If they if they want you for the job, they will pay you for the job. So I think the thing though with regard to that, so I'm hoping that that will sort of ease the thing of like, well, I don't have much experience, and so I should ask for less. It's like, no, because if they want you and they want your voice, they're going to pay you, right? And you you simply need to determine when you look at what the job is and you look at the rate that's being offered. I think really what we have to do is say to ourselves, what am I willing to accept? What am I worth? Where's the line where I say, no, I won't do it for that because because I know because I know my value, because I know what I'm worth, right? So both of those things are a little lofty. I totally understand if you're sort of swimming in this space of, I really need to book the job. I really want to book the job. And gee, if I just had said $100 less, I maybe they would have booked me. But I don't think we can go in with that approach. You know, we must have our own minimums, right? And so if you look at that job and you say, "Oh, it's a this and they're paying this, I am actually like that is a great rate for me." Then you can say, "Yeah, I'll do it for 1,000." And because you're comfortable with the rate, because that's what matters. It's the same as auditions, right? Often we look at auditions and we go, "What do they want? What do they want?" As opposed to saying, what do I have to offer? Right? Because we ought not be adapting ourselves out of our gifts, you know, in order to accommodate a guess as to what a client may respond to. We have to offer ourselves and say, this is what I offer. And if I'm right for the job, I will get the job. And if I'm not, I won't. And the vast majority of the time, you won't get the job. None of us does, right? And I hope that's liberating in a certain sense of like, you can go in and do what you do because the likelihood of you booking is really small. So it's like, what the hell? Just going to do what I'm going to do. But that also allows you to be really authentic with what you're reading. Um, and it allows you to be you. It frees you up. Um, and with regard to rates and fees, right? You can live with, that's what matters. Can you live with the rate, right? Like I have taken things that are well below my minimum before I really established one where I was just like, oh, I should take the job. I should do the job. I should, it's more than I would make earning at working at a day at Starbucks, like I should take it. I should take it. And then I'm pissed through the whole job, just like I'm worth more and they're wasting my time and I have to do another take. And, and now they're coming back with notes, it just makes me mad. And then I realize, yeah, you don't want to do the job because you know that they're not respecting you and what you do. And you didn't respect yourself by saying, here's my minimum. And so, no, I won't. And I did that on a site. I don't know. It was a very short video, when they were offering $200. And I was like, I took this is two different jobs, but I took one at $200, which is like lower than the rate that I would normally take. But I was like, last year was a desperate year, right? And so I was like, all right, I'll do the bloody job. Did it, and I was just so mad the whole time. Right? Oh, they want another round. They want another round. They need pickups. They didn't tell me how to pronounce the product name, so now I got to go through the whole thing again. Like, tell me what the flippin' product name is to begin with. Don't, I'm going to look at it and it looks like a thing to me. So if there's even a possibility that it could be different, um, tell me straight out of the gate. But they didn't, blah, blah, blah. And so I did that thing, and then I didn't even bill them for like 6 months because I couldn't even, which is so stupid. So I sort of did it for free, like it was so stupid of me. Anyway, another thing came down the pike and they offered $200 and I said no. I said, I'm sorry, it's below my minimum. My minimum is 450. And so if the client can do that for 450, then I'm happy to do it. But otherwise I need to pass. And they came right back at 450. I thought the job was gone. And I didn't care. Like, take your job. Somebody else will happily do it at 200, right? Great. And so know your minimums. And if you're unclear about what your minimum should be, that's when you go to Screen Actors Guild rate guide. They have them. And if you're not union, it's okay. The rates are still really valuable. And they are, in most cases, what the industry should be. Sometimes SAG-AFTRA has, you know, undercut itself. But most of the time for commercial rates, video game rates, promo rates, those kinds of things, it's a good tool, as is the GVAA rate guide. And that is a non-union rate guide, but they have used Screen Actors Guild rates as their base formula. So find out what those are, and your rates should be no less than those rates. And then when you see what's being offered by, a producer, you will develop a sense of whether or not that's a fair rate. And then you have to decide, like, will I do it for that? Would I be happy to do it for that? Or will I be bitter like Kay Bess, when she takes something that is too low. Um, so I hope, is that helpful? Like, do you need more clarity on that? Or like, um, yeah, but rest assured, like, I think the vast majority of people on pay to play sites have the same issue. They look and go, what should I do? Where do I? And it's a small handful of people who have nerves of steel and go, no, this is my rate and this is what it is. And I just really encourage you to develop nerves of steel and to be willing to let jobs go, even in the beginning, right? So that you establish for yourself your own, like, you are here to protect yourself and your value and your worth. And so, and included in that you know, is the reality that you will let work go, you know, because it falls below your standard. Have standards, you know. Um, and again, there's no beginner rate. Doesn't matter, you know, how long you've been at it if you're good at it. So there you go. Good.
Thank you. I really appreciate it.
You're very welcome. Alex, did I see your hand go up?
Yeah. Hi. Nice
Hello.
to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Q&A with you. But I've been following you for a while and just really inspired by a lot of what you share. So I
Thank
wanted
you.
to join this and
Thank you.
know you and this community.
Thank you.
I have been doing voiceover for about 5 years, represented by an agency for 2.5. It took over a year to book one job through my agent.
Mhm.
And then literally in the last month, like, they've started coming in.
Right on.
Booked 3 in the last month. And I've been told over the years, like, once you like break through, and they start coming in. And that feels really good. It feels like I finally hit that point. I know I'll have my ebbs and flows, but
Yeah, yeah.
right
But
now I'm on
yeah,
high.
exactly. Ride it. Yeah, it's good.
Yeah. Yeah. So I'll take it while I have it. But
Yeah.
and this is probably, I mean, no dumb questions, but I'm getting used to um doing sessions more regularly
Hmm.
and a little nerve-wracking at
Hmm.
first, you know. And so I'm kind of struggling with what is the appropriate amount of like getting information from the director or the engineer to like keep in touch.
Yeah.
I've I've sort of felt like every time I get off the session, like, oh, I should have like asked more questions, or I'm trying to just be as like low maintenance and easy as possible. But I'd love to stay in touch with some of these people. And I don't know if like through my agent is the best way, or if it's even appropriate to be like, hey, let me get your contact info. I don't know.
You know, it's such a good question. I'm so bad at even remembering a director's name. Like,
Yeah.
there are so many ways in which I should never be a person who gives advice to other voice actors because I like, oh, I'm terrible at that and I don't know how to market and all those things. But, we all have our specialties, um but I think it's totally appropriate to say, um I would love a copy of this when it's finished, if that's appropriate. I would really love to have it.
Yeah.
It's a great piece of work, great piece of writing. I mean, sing the praises, right? It's like really nice sound stuff. If the engineer has played you things that, like so. And just to say, I would love a copy of that. May I contact you for it? And one of two things will happen. They will say, sure, send me an email reminder, at this address, right? And then you take it down, and there you've got the contact information, right? And the way I kind of try to, if I don't remember, someone's name or their full name or their last name or whatever, I say, would you mind just spelling your name for me so that I get it correctly? When I send you an email, I don't want to mess up the spelling of your name, right? And then you're going to get that information, right? Or they're going to say, we'd be happy to get you a copy. We'll go through your agent, right? Um, or why don't you give us your address and we'll send you something, and then I think there's your answer, right? In
Totally.
terms of whether or not people want to stay in contact, you know, how willing they are to do that. And I think, like anything, we just have to respect whatever boundary they're laying out, you know. But I think it's totally appropriate for you to ask. It's not out of bounds to say, I would love a copy. Um, uh, and and you can say, may I contact you, or is there some easier way? you know, and then just hear what they have to say, right? And then just respond, um, accordingly. Does that make sense?
Super helpful. And I love that also because I do sort of wonder after the session, like, okay, am I going to just hear this on the radio? Like, do I,
Yeah,
you know, it's also nice to have that copy in case once it's public, if you can share to your website
yeah,
or,
and use it on your
know,
demo. You know,
right. So it kind of kills two birds with one
it
stone in a way.
totally does. And if you collect enough of your work, you don't have to pay for demos.
Yeah.
You know, like
True too.
it's just huge if we can be kind of constantly just taking the initiative, and to get our work back. We can build our own demos from here to eternity. I don't remember the last time I made a commercial demo that wasn't just the work that I have asked for. It's been a very, very, very long time. Um, so that's what I do when I'm on my game. You know, I just did a couple of dubbing sessions with a director, and I've obviously worked for her before, but I think I worked with her in person when I was living in LA. And so she spoke to me like we were old friends. And I'm like, yeah, I don't even remember her name, So I have to go to my agent and go,
Yeah.
can you please find out who the director was? Because I'm a tool. I don't even know. So so really good to develop that habit, of asking for your work. And that way you do actually collect information for your own, um, you know, oh my gosh, I was just going to say Rolodex. Does anybody know? For your own, email client, you know. Um, yeah. So that is what I would say.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. I want to get to this question that was asked. I want to see if there's anything in the chat. Great, great, great. Okay. All right, that's good. Okay, so this is a question that came from the coaching group in Facebook from Earl Fisher. Hi, Earl, watching this on the replay. So here's his question. The big question for me right now is this. In recent months, I have heard many times from various animation and game respectables that we should all be going big in our auditions, not holding back, leaving it all on the field, so to speak. At the same time, the general wisdom for several years across most genres, including animation and games, is that we should be more grounded, filmic, dramatic, and nuanced. Initially, these seem to be contradicting objectives, but are they? I'd like to believe that the challenge is to find the point where both can be achieved in one read. That perhaps they do not exist on the same spectrum and are not so offsetting, and so are not offsetting to one another. So what does that look like? Can you label the place where they harmoniously line up? So this is a good question, and I think it does apply across every genre. It's very pointed in animation and video games, um, but it's true in commercials too. Um, Now, I just want to give an example as I mentioned, I have been working on a dubbing job, and dubbing it's both intricate work and it can be just so boring, um, and laborious and slow, and it's nuanced and very detailed because you are trying to match the lip movements of the actor on the screen. They're speaking another language. And so words don't always line up, from one language to another. And so, and you also have to match the actor's emotionality, right? You have to meet the scene, right, with what's happening. And so this particular thing I'm working on is about a family that is just a mess. Like they are a mess in every which way. Like so dysfunctional, right? And the mother and wife, who I'm dubbing, she is just trying to hold everything together. She's trying to keep everybody's dysfunction together and manage everyone, right? And last night there was a scene where she just loses it, right? Um And so she's incredulous, she's angry, she's hurt, and she's whispering, right? It's like because she's having this conversation with her husband, and they're not really together because he's having an affair that she knows about and has sort of approved. And now he's having another affair on the affair that he's and she's just like loses it, you know? And, and she doesn't want her kids to hear, they're adult kids, but one is bipolar and having all kinds of you know won't take her medication, and it's like it's a mess, the family's a mess. anyway, so she's like whispering. And so I'm meeting the tone, right? I'm trying to be as quiet, right? And the director is saying to me, it needs more emotion, right? It needs more intensity. It needs more, right? And I'm thinking to myself, like, how do you do that with a whisper? Like how do you, and so, you know, she would ask me on occasion, like, is there anything in your life that you can draw upon? And I'm like, not quite to this extent, like these people are insane. Like I don't really have those experiences, but yes, the answer is yes. I'll try to think of something where am just incredulous and all those things. And so, but the ultimate goal is that I'm I'm authentic and I am bringing everything, right? I'm bringing it all, right, to the scene, but it's not big. It's very small, right? And so to bring everything to something does not necessarily mean bigger, louder, um, more pitch variance. It doesn't necessarily mean that. It means that it's coming genuinely from you at 100%, right? And so I think that that's where that meets. It's like to be able to put yourself as an actor into the circumstance and be there honestly. I think that is what is really meant by go big, right? In this kind of a circumstance, right? Where you're combining something dramatic and nuanced and grounded with going big. I think what that really means is 100% committed to the scene that is at hand, right? Um, and I don't know how else exactly to express that, right? Except it isn't just, again, it isn't just about loudness or broad, something broad, right? It's that you are, as Sanford Meisner says, that you're behaving truthfully in imaginary circumstances, no matter what those circumstances are. If I'm having an argument with somebody in a restaurant where I don't want other people to hear, I am going to be quiet, but I'm going to be intense if I'm really angry. So that's my job to figure out what does intense anger look like in a quiet restaurant. That's like, how mad am I at this person, you know? And so, um, I can't bounce this off of Earl, but I'm hoping that kind of makes some sense, right? That it isn't about being big and loud and broad. It's about being honest. Honesty can be interpreted as going big. It can if it's 100% honesty. That's a measure of big, you know? Um, Again, so it's not just about volume, it's not caricature expression. It's authentic expression of all of the big range of human emotion, right? So, and we can do that in animation and video games and dubbing and commercials, you know? Um, because ultimately, even in a commercial, we're still in uh, we're still in a relationship because we're talking to someone, whether we're telling somebody about this great healthcare plan that we just found out about, we're still talking to someone. We're offering that information to someone, and we're at various levels of being excited about that. And depending upon where we are, what the circumstance is, am I talking to a friend of mine sitting across, a table in a quiet restaurant? Well, that's gonna sound different than if I'm talking to 10 people or I'm talking to 20 people in a room where there's a microphone, So what kind of circumstance are we in? But all of it has to be authentic. And um, so that is my sensibility. I hope that answered uh, Earl's. question. And Earl, if it didn't, you let me know. Um, yes, Steve Ward, be honest and be brave. Exactly. Yes. Um, that uh unless you guys have any other thought or comment, that will, I think, do us for today. Yes, Joetta.
I just had a
Yeah,
technical question
sure.
about my vocal booth setup
Uh-huh.
that I'm sort of struggling with noise. A little bit more airplane noise is coming my
Mm,
way in my neighborhood. And
okay.
so I'm noticing the difference now. And it's starting to like double my audition time. And
Okay.
so, yeah. And so I'm trying to find a way to um, sort of compensate outside of my booth. Right now, I've got for the vocal booth to go options. I don't know if you're familiar with that website,
I
but
am.
it's okay.
These are from Vocal Booth to Go. These music
Okay.
channels.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I've got a just like one of their regular like metal frame on the inside and then the soundproof packing blanket construction things on the outside. But I'm wondering if there's some way or I'm wondering if it's better to supplement by outside of the booth, surrounding the booth with walls, like soundproof walls, or like another constructed soundproof blanket configuration, or if it's best to just save up my pennies and go for like a whisper booth.
Yeah. So let me offer you something in the interim. Um,
Hmm.
uh, oh my gosh, whisper booths are so expensive.
They're so
Like
expensive.
so expensive. So I have since 2006 been in, closets. My uh this is a closet. I happen to have two closets in my master. And so I
Mm.
just took one, the smaller of the two, and I took out the racks and I, put stuff up and it's sound treated. It's not soundproofed. So, you know, Wednesday at noon, the gardeners are here and I just have to wait a little bit, like
Yeah.
that's life. But what I have used through various years is what's known as a stack, and it becomes what do I want to say? It's about your it's a treatment to your sound file as opposed to a treatment for your booth. Because unless
Oh,
you build or buy a truly soundproofed booth, you're always going to have some kind of sound interference. It's life, when I lived in Pasadena, in South Pasadena, I lived across the street from the back of a grocery store. And so every day it was like the trucks are backing up, to drop their load, and it was like beep, 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 and the and the hum of the engine. They leave them running, you know. And so uh like I contended with that all the time. And um I tried to schedule things, it's hard to though. Um, but what I did was I got a what's known as a stack, and I got it from, well, you can get one from George Whittam, um, and I think his website is georgethetech.com. Let me just make sure.
thank you.
George the Tech. Yes, georgethetech.com. Please tell me that that's correct. Yes, literally, it's George the dot tech, TECH. And um, does it say here? Mm, Sorry, I just want to look and see. I'm gonna welcome to find please. Let's see. I'm gonna put in stack and see what happens. Sorry, you guys. I'm
No,
doing
thank you.
I'm doing a search. Okay, so there's no answer to that. But you can send view all services. I'm determined to find this. Where did it go? Okay. Well, I am just going to suggest to you that you go um, to George the dot tech and see how you can contact him. And what I would do, because I'm not finding the stack thing really easily, but I know that he does them. And so you would just need to send him an email and just ask him, and you can tell him I sent you. It's not going to do much except to go, oh yeah, okay, I know her. So, but
Okay.
so what the stack does is it's essentially a bunch of filters that are set up to run one right after the other with the click of a button. And so it'll like take out uh it'll silence, all the sort of in between stuff, right? And
Yeah.
it will depending upon the type of stack that you ask for, right? It'll like I have them for promo work and affiliate work. So my voice needs to be really forward, and and the and the higher end needs to be more prominent, right? So it cuts through music on a news promo, right?
Mhm.
So it just depends, but I run stacks on my stuff when it's noisy, right? And
Amazing.
it doesn't necessarily, it can cut out everything, um, but it depends. Like like truly, if somebody's jackhammering, that kind of sound is going to be in your voice. It's not like the stuff that sort of surrounds your voice. But that I think is a really good option for just like basic stuff like airplanes flying over, or
Yeah.
or just a little bit of like sometimes I have to record something and my HVAC is on and there's like this hum, right? And I'm like,
Yeah.
it's going to take me 10 minutes. It's going to take my system 10 minutes to actually shut off. And I need those 10 minutes. And so I just run a stack. I record and I run a stack. So, so that's an option. I think that I just don't think I would ever, buy a whisper booth. That's me though. Like so many people have them, but I have never been held back. I have never it no one's ever said to me, I'm not gonna hire you because you don't have right? Even when I say like, sorry you guys, there's a plane flying if I'm on a directed session, right? Sorry you guys, there's a plane flying overhead. They're like, that's all right, that's cool. Just and we wait
Gotcha.
until they can't hear it, right? And then off we go. I've been in sessions for video games where, man, are they really particular about their sound, where and those are like gnarly studios, you know, and they stop because an airplane is going overhead. They're like, we got to wait, we got to call it. We can hear the airplane. No booth is perfect. And so we don't have to necessarily, we can't we can't make them perfect. We can get them close and we can spend a lot of money doing it, but man, I'd rather have I don't know, I think the stack I did at the time was like $50, but I'm sure it's more now. This was a lot. I've been using it since like 2006. So I'm sure
Yeah.
it's more, but even if it's $100, $150, it's like, and usually what happens is they will ask like, can you send us a sound file where you're having sound issues, like,
Hmm.
and you just send it to them, and then they tailor it to that kind of issue. You know what I mean?
Amazing.
Yeah. There are a few people who do it, and I know George does. But if George doesn't do them anymore, send me a note, and
Yeah.
I'll like Jordan Reynolds might do them. Um, Trying to think. I know that there are other people who do them.
Uncle Roy does one too.
Okay, great. Who did that come from? Where'd that come from?
For me, Steve.
Steve Ward.
Hi,
Yeah.
Steve. I don't see you, so but
Thank you,
that's so
Steve.
great. It's like a voice from the heavens. Okay, great. So yes, Uncle Roy will do them as well. So they're just super helpful, you know, and you can
Okay.
decide if if that's enough. It's certainly helpful, and then over time, if you end up, with a lot of spare cash, and you're like, I'm gonna get myself a whisper booth, because
Right?
I have 10 grand. So,
10,000.
I every time I walk up my stairs, I go, I got to spend the 3 grand and put the hardwoods in my hallway. I can't stand it. Makes me
Yeah.
crazy. So I'd rather do that. Hi, Steve.
I, I would
Um,
also
Thank you,
say
Steve.
yeah,
is keep your eye out on Marketplace. That's where I got my whisper room, and I got it for an equivalent of $1,600 US.
Get out of my face.
that's so
It was,
there you go. If you
it was a
that
local company that had a whole bunch of them,
Where
and
are you located?
I'm in Canada.
Okay.
It was it was literally something I could not pass up on. It
that's
was
great.
in Montreal. It was local. I was able to drive to pick it up, and like I
Yeah,
said, American $1,600. So and I was even able to drop it like the price that they had said. Originally, it was 4,000 Canadian, and then they came back and said, "Oh, we dropped it down to 24 Canadian," and then I got them down to I think 22 or 21 Canadian, which is roughly, like I said, around $1,600 American.
yeah,
So
yeah.
keep
They're out
I,
Amazing.
there. They're out
oh,
there.
even there's Facebook groups. There's an exchange. What's happening right now is there's a lot of people getting out of the industry.
Hmm.
Hmm.
There's a lot of groups they're selling microphones, interfaces, all kinds of stuff.
Yeah,
And sometimes they're selling booths,
yep,
and you can, depending on where you are,
yeah,
um, you can actually pick it up.
yeah. And I would imagine if you could find a deal like that, you might even be able to pay for shipping, which would probably would double the price, but that's still inexpensive for
Yeah,
for a
Mm.
new booth, right?
absolutely.
If you compare, yeah. So
And
that's
is
great.
Uncle
That's great.
Roy like a person? Is that like a website that
He's a
you go
person.
to?
Yeah, he's
Yeah,
he's a person.
Oh,
got you.
Antland Productions.
Antland,
Antland
Ant
Productions.
Antland Productions.
ANT
Thank you.
Productions. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just
Um,
Roy because of just the kind of guy he is. He has that kind of. He's that uncle of yours. That that.
Yeah, he's just no, yeah, he's just helpful to everybody. He's
Yeah.
very congenial and he at all the, you know, conventions, the VO conventions, he always brings bagels. He brings
And
bagels.
he's usually the
It's
sound
just like
for those as well.
he's what?
He's usually the sound guy as well. For another.
Yes. Yeah,
Nice.
yeah. Yeah. He's
Wow.
he's a great
Thank
guy.
you.
You're so welcome. I want to answer Genevieve's question. What happens if you use a stack, but then in a live directed session, they are recording? They just edit appropriate? Yes. Um, well, I use stacks for my auditions, and I use stacks for my affiliate work where what I record at home is what is going to air. And so, um, but when I do a live session, um, and I'm recording, and I'm going to send them a file, I send a raw file, and um, and I don't do anything. I pass nothing through a stack in that instance. It's just a raw sound file. And if they're on the session and they are hearing what I'm doing, And so if I sometimes they will say, yeah, we hear something and they want to stop for a minute. Or sometimes I'll say, can you hear that? And they'll go, nope, can't hear that. And I go, okay. It's like, and so I just send the raw file. They have engineers and the engineers know what they're doing and so you don't need to worry about that. And when it's really just me editing, you know, um, before I send in an audition. I do not use stacks on animation or video game. Because often with a stack, you'll get a truncated breath, which I cut breaths out of my commercial auditions, and usually my narration auditions. So I cut them out, so that doesn't really matter. But very often in animation and video game stuff, you're breathing and all of that, and the sort of mouth noises you make um, in the course of speech, they matter to your performance. And so I don't want them truncated. So I would never use a stack on those types of auditions. Um, and you can have minimal stacks where it's just like I need something that's going to cut out a lot of the background noise, but it's not really going to filter my voice in marked ways, right? So so again, it's like you have a conversation with the person that's going to make your stack and sort of they're going to ask you, what do you want? What are you after? Just like I just want to kind of use it as a tool to kind of clean up my auditions because I have some outside noise. Like that's great. So Genevieve, I hope that answered the question there. And again, you don't have to worry. A stack is not going to necessarily it's not going to make your microphone sound better, so your booth still has to be your booth. The only thing we're really talking about here is controlling outside noise, not masking a bad mic, or bad acoustics or anything like that. It's just you got a good booth, but it's sound treated but not soundproofed, so that's really what it's about. So there you go. Hope that helps. But yeah, Steve's suggestion to look for booths on sale is great. And at the same time, $1,500 is still some cash, right? That's a lot. Um, so in the interim, a stack is a pretty cost-effective piece of assistance. So, what is somebody coming in just as we're leaving?
The other quickly say
Hi.
is
Yeah,
keep in mind that even getting a booth doesn't eliminate all of the issues.
that's right.
So every space that you get, whether it's going to be a closet, a booth, everything still needs to get treated. So just keep that in mind because all you're doing with whether it's studio bricks, whisper room, bear cave, you're just getting a smaller box. So that box still needs to get treated within it as well. So
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Good. Thank you so much, Steve. All right, you guys, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. And if I hope that you are, I guess you all are in some way, either on a mailing list or in the group. I have some stuff
hey,
coming up.
is it okay if I ask a question?
Oh, yeah, sure.
I know it's at the
Absolutely.
11th hour. I
No, that's
apologize.
all right. No worries.
Um, you had earlier talked about a mind shift or gave. Um, is it Joette? Is that how I say it?
Joetta.
Joette.
Joetta.
At the end, I didn't see it. Yeah. You were very helpful in giving Joetta a mindset. And I wouldn't mind hearing your mindset or take on shifting a mindset of when you're coming into this and the idea of you belong at the table. Yeah, just that kind of shifting the mindset of student to participant from on the sidelines to actually being in the action of making that leap.
Yeah. A, I think a big part of that mindset is, um, and I do understand what you mean when you say, going from student to participant. I get that. Um, but hopefully we never stop being students, right?
Okay. Well,
Do you
okay.
know? I
Yes.
but
As soon as you said
it
that, but
it's
I
but
don't
it's a part of the mindset though, right? Because we do have this idea that, well, I'm learning, I'm learning, I'm learning. I'm not really that yet. I'm not
yeah.
really that thing yet, right? But and if we can approach it like, yeah, I am a student of this and I will always be a student of it. And I'm auditioning and I'm learning from all of the things that I'm reading, and my bookings are coming. And I am, by virtue of my engagement in the business, my engagement on, pay to plays, my engagement with uh my engagement with my agents, you're already a participant, because with the amount of work that we get associated to the number of auditions that we do, then none of us would really qualify as being participants because our ratios are so small.
Mm,
You know what I'm saying? So um so as long as you are engaging all of the things that make a person a voice actor, you're a voice actor. And I know there are people who have this very sort of um uh rigid idea of, like, don't call yourself a voice actor if you're not making a living at, like, and I can't stand it. That's just ridiculous. It's just not it's not helpful. It's not helpful. Very, very, very few of us are making a full-time living doing voiceover. Does that mean we're not voice actors? No, it doesn't. It doesn't. It's just the nature of being, it's the nature of artistry. It's the nature of being an actor. It's the nature of being a musician. Are they saying that only if you breathe the rarefied air at the top of the 1% that you get to call yourself a voice actor? No, that's not true. And so, it takes a lot of time for the work to come to fruition, right? So, was Van Gogh not an artist until he sold his first painting? Because if that's the case, he was never an artist, you know?
mm,
So, um, like that. I think I think as long as you are engaging all of the things and you are getting feedback that says, yeah, you, you're getting affirmation, for what you're doing, the work that you're doing, um, and the quality of the work, and that it's just a matter of time, before things start to land, and things will land and then they won't, and then they will again, and you'll have a good year, you'll have two good years, and then you might have a bad first half of this year, second half of that year, like there's no arrival. There's
okay.
no arrival. There's no arrival. And I'll say that, like, I talk about Rob Paulson all the time, he's a um legendary animation voice actor, Emmy winning voice actor, Pinky and the Brain, Pinky, and um among a myriad of other characters, and um, if you say to him, what's been your favorite job? He says the next one, because he knows he's always working. He, you cannot rest on any laurels. You can't, we're just constantly going and we'd never arrive. we never arrive. So I think if you could hold that, and just to say that the whole of the voice actor's life is the process, you know, um, then that's a shift, from going to I'm this one day until something happens, and then I'm forever going to be this other thing. It's like, I don't know that that's true. That's not been my experience. And yet, there are certain times when I've landed certain jobs and I go, oh my God, oh my goodness. Like when I'm in it, I kind of go, maybe I have arrived. And then the job ends, or they forget to give you a credit, or they, leave you in the booth during lunchtime. They forget and you realize, oh my God, I don't matter to these people. And you kind of get this very humbling, thing going on, and you realize, yeah, this is the job for today, and tomorrow I don't have the job, and then you know, so I suppose really at the heart of it is that we're always learning and we never arrive, and we just keep at it. And if you're engaged in it, you're a voice actor, like,
I do like that. Yeah,
yeah,
okay.
yeah, you're right.
I do like that idea that there is no arrival.
Yeah,
It's almost like, I don't know, safe to say that we can determine when that happens. I know that I was sharing a win with Bev Standing, and I said, yeah, I got my, it's a little thing. I got my first, paid gig, and so then in a subsequent meetup when I was like, oh, still new, she goes, no, 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 you are, yeah, yeah. I mean, you already got your paid gig, so there is no more. I'm not,
yeah, yeah,
own it, type of thing. So,
yeah,
okay,
yeah.
thank you.
Before I landed my very first radio spot, I, if you would have said to me, "What do you do for a living?" I would have said, "Well, I'm a voice actor. I also wait tables at the Cheesecake Factory, but I'm a voice actor." And it was you know, before I booked anything. You know what I mean? But I had an agent, I mean, that was the only route back then. It's like you had an agent. So it's
Yeah.
like once I got an agent, I was like, all right, I'm a voice actor, you know? But it didn't have anything to do with my income, or,
Mm,
or, that's just what I was. I was an actor who got a voice, who got a VO agent. But
mm,
I hadn't ever done anything. I had done one thing on camera, one, but I'm an actor. It's like, it's who you are, really. It's like if you're a painter, you're a painter. If you're a musician, you're a musician, you know? And it isn't about the pay.
yeah,
I mean, it's like you can ask yourself the question, and you can, consider this about whether or not I have a career, right? Whether or not I'm making whether I'm making my living at it. It's like, well, there are lots of us who can say, yeah, I'm not making my living at it, but that doesn't mean I'm not the thing,
yeah,
you know? And so perhaps making a living, earning a particular income, that those are kind of practical questions to ask ourselves. It's like, but we still get to determine what is satisfying to us, because for some people it's like, man, I'd love to make $25,000 a year as a voice actor. For other people, it's like, I need to make a 500,000. But they both call themselves voice actors.
and one isn't less of just because
Correct.
the
That's
zero.
cor
Yeah,
that's correct. That's correct. Yeah. So I think that's just the thing of like, I'm a voice actor. When people ask you, what do you do? I'm a voice actor. It's,
yeah.
it's, you know,
Hmm. Well, thank you for that mind shift. That is exactly.
I hope it helped.
No,
I hope it helped. That's good.
thank
Good,
you.
good. Okay. Now I must run. Um, And I'll see you next month, and there'll be some announcements forthwith. Thank you so much for all the questions. Like, I really appreciate the depth and the breadth of the questions. So nice to see you all, and nice to hang out for a while. So have a really good rest of your week, and we'll see you soon. Yeah. Okay. Ciao.